I have no patience to homeschool. This is one of the most common responses that I get when I tell people that I homeschool. I think a lot of parents misunderstand what they're supposed to be doing in homeschool, and I think that is one of the biggest reasons why they struggle so much when it comes to patience. So if you have always been worried about how much patience you have or don't have and think that that's a reason why you cannot homeschool, then this is the video for you. I think our struggles with patience stem from one of two different things. First of all, it stems from a need for control. When we feel like we have to be controlling a situation and it has to go the way that we want it to go, then our patience gets short when things do not go according to plan. So if you are very much a type A personality, if you're the kind of person who homeschools by saying, this is what we are going to do, and I have this schedule, and we've got this stuff, and I have this checklist, chances are you are going to struggle when it comes to taking the time that you need or that your child needs and having the patience to go over things maybe multiple times, having to start something over, having to ditch something and come back to it. You're going to find your patience wearing thin and your patience getting short because you have this need for things to go the way that you want them to go. And a lot of times that need for control is tied to our time. We have an idea of how long we are willing to spend on something. And once we start hitting the edge of that time frame, we start getting impatient. We want to move on to other things. I've got stuff I have to do, kids. I have to make dinner. I have to answer those emails. I have to call so-and-so back. We have all of these things that are encroaching on our time. And so because homeschooling is taking longer than we think it should or that we had planned on it going, we start getting frustrated with how long it's taking and our patience starts wearing thin. Now, I also think that when we are unsure of ourselves, we do not have confidence in our ability to homeschool, in homeschooling working, in the curriculum that we chose, in the method that we're following, then we have less patience because it's not so much a patience thing, it's actually a fear thing. And as soon as homeschool starts not going the way that we had wanted it to go, we start feeling that fear welling up. I knew it. I'm not good at this. I can't do this. My kids aren't cut out for this. I'm not cut out for this. And so it's not exactly that we're running out of patience. It's that we're running out of confidence. We don't think that we can do this. And because we don't think we can do it, we start getting upset. And it comes out as impatient. And we just say, forget it, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore. Or we start getting frustrated with our kids, come on, you need to work on this, you need to get this going. We start thinking that if we can get through this lesson, if I can check off this box, then at least I can say, yes, we did it, we're done, we've got another day in the books. But it really is not the way that we want homeschooling to go. And so that frustration builds and it comes out as losing our patience. When we have confidence that homeschooling does work and that we have all of the skills, all of the resources, all of the whatever that we think that we need in order to homeschool, then when things are not going quite right, we don't take it so personally. We don't get so worried that we're not going to be able to do this. Instead, we are able to step back and say, okay, did not see this issue coming, did not think my kids were going to struggle with this, or didn't think they were going to not like this, or didn't think that the curriculum was going to be like this, fill in the blank. And we're able to say, okay, so what do we need to do differently? What do I need to change? Maybe we need to tweak this. Maybe we need to just get rid of this and start with something totally different. Maybe we just need to take a day off. We're able to think outside the box, think creatively, and change things up easily because our confidence is not tied to those things. It's tied to our own understanding and confidence in what we are doing and what we have available to us to help us to do that. So when you know, for example, that you have a homeschool coach who you can go to when things are not going well, then it's a lot easier to admit that things aren't going well and say, this is not working the way I thought it was. I'm going to make sure that I get in on that next group coaching session that she's having because I definitely need to ask her about this. Or I'm going to get onto the forums and I'm going to ask what other people would recommend and what that coach would recommend. When you know that you have somebody in your corner who is going to come alongside you and help you when things are not going well, it's a lot easier to be able to calm ourselves down and slow ourselves down and realize that, okay, this isn't going as planned, but that's okay. We can fix this. And when we know that we have ample time to do what we need to do, it makes it so much easier to be able to give our kids the time that they need, to be able to take that deep breath when things aren't going well and say, okay, we're going to have an extended lunchtime. Everybody just go outside for a little while. You obviously need to run off some of this energy. We're able to say, I don't have to stick to this schedule because I know that we have time. And one of the reasons why parents struggle so much with that concept of time is usually because of one of two things. First of all, because they're not allotting enough time in their day for homeschooling, and they're scheduling too many other things, or they're expecting to be able to do too many other things. There is a saying that says, homeschool like it's your job, because it is your job. And so if you were going to be going to work, you wouldn't be scheduling all of these other things in the middle of your day, right? So you need to block off your homeschooling time and make sure you're blocking off plenty of it so that you don't have this feeling of, oh, we've got to get done with this so I can get on to the next things that I need to do. The other thing that makes parents worry about time is their fear that their kids are going to fall behind. And that is because they're tied so closely to the conventional approach to education, either because they're doing a school-at-home approach or because they just haven't deschooled. And so they have this idea that, okay, my kid is 12 years old, which means that they need to be doing 7th grade work. And if they don't finish all of the 7th grade work, they can't move to the 8th grade work and they're going to fall behind. They're still so tied to all of these ideas of grade levels and specific things having to be taught at specific times and not being able to just come back to this curriculum next year when our child is maybe a little more mature, a little older, able to sit down for longer, whatever the situation is, that as soon as it stops looking that way, or as soon as their ability to keep up with those expectations gets threatened, they lose their patience. And again, it's not so much about patience, it's about fear. I don't want my kid to fall behind. I don't want for my kid to not have all the things that they need. I don't want for my kid to not be able to move on to the next level when we get on to homeschooling next year. But when you've taken the time to deschool yourself, then you're able to say, okay, this is not going as I thought it would go. So let's take a look and figure out why that might be. Does this child need more time on this concept? Is this child just not ready for this material at all? Is this child just not at all interested in this? And I need to kind of let go of the idea that this year was going to be all about world history and focus on something else because he's obviously not interested. When you have deschooled yourself, you're able to step back and not hold so tightly to one particular approach or one particular methodology. And you're able to say, okay, this isn't working, so let's change it up. Because you realize that all of that grade level stuff, all of those conventional school expectations are completely arbitrary. They have nothing to do with real learning or the real world. And so as soon as you're able to let go of that stuff, it makes it so much easier when your child is not living up to those expectations to be able to say, oh, okay, let's do something different. This is one of the reasons why I love simplified homeschooling, because it is a very stripped down approach, which gives you a lot of wiggle room. You're able to make changes very easily and very quickly because you're not using as much curriculum and you're doing a lot more things in line with your kids' interests. And when you align with your child's interests, it makes a lot of aspects of homeschooling way easier. They are more interested, they're more engaged, they like to do the deep dives, they like to stay with the curriculum. And when you are stripped down with how much curriculum you're using, then it's not as frustrating and overwhelming if you get to a point where you realize it's just not working for you. This curriculum just is not a good fit for us. If you've bought curriculum for 6 different subjects and none of it works, that is a huge amount of money that you feel like you just wasted. And now you've got this whole thing going on in your head about, I got to try to figure out how I'm going to sell this stuff and I got to get the new stuff and what am I going to use? And your patience starts wearing thin again, because this is not time that you thought you were going to have to spend. These are not issues that you thought that you were going to have to deal with. And now you're getting worried. But when you're following simplified homeschooling, you have very little curriculum. And you're not so concerned with what curriculum it is so much as you are with how are we going to implement this curriculum. We're going to use this in a way that works for our kids. We're not going to even use this part of it because we don't even want to. And the stuff that we are using, we're actually going to change how we use it because we don't want to have to spend so much time in workbooks or watching videos or what have you. You're much more nimble with how you use curriculum and with how you structure your day and with how you approach things like history and science in particular, so that you're able to make these changes very quickly. And so if you do feel yourself starting to get frustrated, it's a little easier to step back and say, okay, where's the breakdown here? Because you know that you're not tied to this idea of, ooh, we have to finish all this stuff by May or by June, or we have to be done with it before we move on next year. So the moral of the story is that you probably don't need more patience. What you need is more confidence, more time, and more deschooling. The more you deschool yourself, the more you separate your thoughts about learning and education from the conventional approach. That leads to more confidence, and it also makes it easier for you to follow a more streamlined, simplified approach to education, which takes less time and makes it easier for you to be able to do all the other things in your life that you need to do around your homeschooling time. I'm going to share my best deschooling resource with you down in the description. If deschooling is not something you have ever done, then 100% you have to stop homeschooling and go do that now. Nearly every issue that people have when they homeschool finds its root in the fact that they didn't deschool or they didn't deschool enough. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you take the time to do that. You don't have to use my resource if you don't want to, but just know that without it, it's going to take a lot longer to deschool. Whole reason I created my deschooling experience program is to accelerate your deschooling journey so that you can get way further, way more quickly, and start reaping the benefits this year instead of having to wait for next year. Do you agree with my assessment that it's not really a patience issue? I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye.